You're listening to Mixing Mindsets. I'm Andrew Blank.
And I'm Eric Navrosky, and we hope you find some value out of these conversations about lifestyle, music, and more. Welcome back to another episode of Mixing Mindsets. Today we are joined with John and Caleb of Guilt and Bloom, and
Hi.
we're going to be talking about coping skills. But first, John.
Hi, my name's John. I play guitar in Guilt and Bloom, and I sing occasionally and yell.
You do.
Too.
You're very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You sound just like Comeback Kid.
I've heard that a lot, and it really makes me
Good.
not hate myself.
Right on.
Coping skills.
Yeah, that's how I cope is music and yelling.
Caleb, please.
I'm Caleb. I play guitar and I also yell and sing things in Guilt and Bloom.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Wonderful.
there's four of us, and there's
Yes.
probably many different coping skills. So we'll kind of break this apart. We'll start with you, John.
Oh,
Move
good.
to Caleb, Andrew, myself, and we'll just kind of keep going in that nice little circle, you know?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So give us coping skills. Something that you do that really you feel helps you.
Well, on a real note, I think this was actually kind of helpful because on a real
Please.
note, I'm not having a great mental health day today.
Oh, okay.
It's been kind of it's been kind of crap. But I do think some of the things that I've done to help cope, if I'm having an off day, if my depression is just, skyrocketing or whatever, I'm just not feeling great. I think these guys have definitely helped me. There's people that you can't see, but that are also here. I don't know what I'm saying. But reaching out to people and just basically, I've been trying to get a lot better at talking everything out with people that I care about. If
For
if I'm if I'm feeling down, I'm just yeah, man, I'm feeling down because
Never
of this.
bottle
or
anything
whatever.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to bottle everything up when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and that was before I even realized that I had depression. I just kept everything. It's like the John Mulaney bit. He's I'll keep everything inside, and then one day I'll die. That's kind of the terrible mindset, incredibly toxic to have. But that's kind of how I was when
He's
I
a
was
comedian though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's like a bit about Chicago people, I think, isn't it?
I maybe it's
I
it's
think
a
that's
bit
how
about
it starts off or
Irish
something,
dads, I
but,
think,
all
or
right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was a bit where he's talking about Irish people never show emotion or something like that. It's sir, your son has died. All right, bury the boy. He just
Bury the
immediately
boy.
goes into that. Yeah, it was that bit.
Bury the boy.
But yeah,
Talking
one
to
of
people.
one of the many coping skills that I have is just trying to be more open and talking with people
Yeah.
about
Just
everything.
open communication.
Open communication about every single thought that's going in. I mean, obviously not every thought, but
Right.
as many thoughts as I can get out that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah,
and
of
I'm
course.
working on getting more comfortable talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
That does help me cope.
That's awesome.
Andrew and I are huge advocates of that. We talk about that all the time.
Mhm.
I call it seeking wise counsel.
Mhm.
You go to people that you trust, that who
Yeah.
know care for you,
Mhm.
and you talk through it out. Yeah,
Yeah,
Caleb.
absolutely.
Him, he's
Yeah,
like
just-
Yeah,
he's
me.
like a
Hey, how you
straight
doing?
up counselor.
He's,
Right.
he's like a straight up counselor.
I do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Why don't
do
you talk
that.
about that? That's
Yeah, go
probably-
ahead.
That's probably interesting.
We'll talk about
You've got
that,
some
or
great
how-
experience
Yeah,
with
you really do.
Absolutely.
coping skills.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, the one thing that I run roughly 8 groups per week at the substance use disorder clinic I work at, and one of them is it's the, I guess, entry level kind of thing. It's somebody who's not in a stable position in life, like their housing's in jeopardy, or they don't have any, or they're
Right.
involved in CPS or legal charges, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I look at, it has to deal with the modality is it's solution focused therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that specific group, we don't really tackle a lot of coping skills because those people aren't in a place to even develop or get to that point yet.
It's more survival.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
survival
You
techniques.
can't make any change unless you feel those basic needs, like the Maslow's
Yeah.
pyramid, thing.
Yeah.
And but the other one that I work on is an early recovery group, and that's kind of the step up from that. So that's people who are in a more stable place, have their environment, their family, somewhat of a support system and stuff, and that's where we start to kind of work on not only coping skills but identifying tons of toxic behavior and stuff like that. And then because it's everyone has toxic traits to a degree, right? You know, I mean, it's a spectrum. Like there's a degree of codependency in every relationship. There's, you know, there's always something kind of going on. And so I do this one thing back to the coping skills. It's like a creative, like Thursday, like kind of group that I run. Yeah. And depending on the amount of people or the people in the group, you know, it's either revered or hated. So it's hit or miss sometimes, you know, and so it's always like, we spend the day, you know, that specific group, I run it for 75 minutes usually. So we do like a check-in with like everybody in the group. It's like 12, 15 people maybe. And like, and so like the focus of the questioning for that check-in on that day is all about like what they tried for like a new coping skill or what they tried like as a new activity or something and like what sticks. Cause it's very like, there's no like real identifying thing that like sticks for people. It's just random stuff. Like I have this article that I share with groups a lot. It's written by, now I think she's a professor or something, but like in a mental health related thing. But she wrote this whole thing about how she suffered with a lot of like ADHD tendencies and stuff and focus issues and everything, and found like this intense solitude in like reading, because like she could do it at like whatever pace she felt like and think of all of the thoughts that she was thinking while she was reading the book and still keeping up and like doing all this stuff. And so it's kind of funny. Like I have a guy who decided that he like fell in love with like taking pictures of like birds. So he just like, that's what he does. That's like, awesome. And
my parents do that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really kind of weird, like what sticks with some people, because it's not always what you would expect, or it's just something like really crazy and simple and like, you know, and that's just like the application of it. It's not like the actual, you know, like
you've seen that it could be sporadic.
Right. Yeah.
What about you personally?
I mean, me personally, like obviously music and stuff, but like before I even got or picked up like an instrument, like poetry was always like a thing that drew me in. Yeah. So, you know, I started writing poetry and like submitting to stuff online literally before social media was a thing. And it was all like independent forums. Disconnected and stuff. And so I actually got like published and stuff when I was in high school. So I sent like a few poems to like,
awesome.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, I really like this or whatever. And then, you know, like I don't know what you're asking. You're young. You're young. Yeah, you're young. So I don't know. You know that emo boom of like the 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge.
I literally was gonna make an MCR joke. Before you said that. Like, I love MCR.
Like that First Taking Back Sunday record like era like emo like hit, and then I was just like, oh, I should probably do music. Like you know like
something resonated.
Yeah, like
like even back to like My Chemical Romance. Like that was like, I know this is kind of off topic, but like My Chemical Romance like is the band that like introduced me to like music in general.
Ray Toro is one of my favorite guitar players. Period.
I met Frank Iroh actually a couple years ago at Tid the Season. And I was so nervous. Like he was like as far away from me as you are. And I was with my friend. I was like, I'm gonna go say hi to Frank Iroh. That's Frank Iroh. And I was like so nervous. And I went up. I was like, I don't remember. I think it was like Frank Iroh and The Experience, I think is what they were called at that point. Right. But basically I went up to him and I was just like, hi, sir, thank you for showing me music. And I shook his hand. And that totally off topic again. Sorry, but like, that reminded me of kind of the same thing of like them getting me into music. That also like kind of like helped show me that like, oh, I have all these feelings inside and they also feel these things. Weird.
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, people have similar experiences and you like to share your experience with somebody else, and when you find that they have a similar experience, you have a bond.
It was nice to see like, oh, I'm not the only person that's feeling this like weird way.
They just give the thought out into the universe and it tends to resonate with the listener,
positive or negative. I mean, when you're talking about,
well, it's like it's not necessarily negative or positive. It's just no one likes to feel alone. So some people, you know, it depends on what your perspective is. Some people look at things positively, and some people look at things negatively. So it just
Are you a glass half empty or half full kind of guy?
Lately, I've been trying to be glass full, but I've always been why is there a glass that's too much water? I'm not that thirsty. There's not an ice cream. I need a straw because it hurts my teeth. Like, so, we're just kind of straightening out thoughts at this point.
Well, yeah, with like those, like Greyhaven, you're wearing a Greyhaven shirt. Yeah, I like Greyhaven. So the fact that I could see that, good. And it's like, it's like, look, we share a common interest, so therefore there's a bond. Whether it is something as basic as a band that you enjoy together, or something more serious in life.
Yeah, that was for me. Like when I was in high school, I went to like a really uppity kind of rich neighborhood, like in the central area where I live. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And everybody is all fashion focused and stuff in high school, and like worried about like wearing like the Abercrombie and like I can't even remember all the stuff that was
Abercrombie, Hollister, American Eagle.
Yes.
Like
look, he's going.
Right. I used to work at Aeropostale. Like I was like a stock employee in the back. Whenever I tell people about that, they're like, I literally had one person who's like, you? I was like, yes, it's not that weird. I work at Aeropostale. It's a job.
Yeah, but it's like, like everybody was all focused on that stuff, and I would literally just do whatever I could to get clothes. Like there was a period in time where I came up with this thing where I was just wearing random work shirts that I could find at like Salvo and stuff, like just collared work shirts from like old 70s TV repair shops and stuff, and like just dumb stuff. Like I had like a multi-grain, I had like a multi-grain Cheerio shirt at like one point, and like just dumb stuff like that.
That's a vibe.
It just reminds me of those shirts that like what Zach Galifianakis wore in The Hangover. It's just like a werewolf howling at a moon.
Right.
I had one that had a fish on it. It was like my favorite shirt ever.
Howling at a moon?
I went straight through a period of just buying those ridiculous Walmart shirts. But love it. That's an aside.
We're not talking about it.
Hey, maybe he coped by buying
shirts. This is making me feel better.
Of all these shirts.
The clothes thing is like band t-shirts were like the first thing that I could buy that I was like, I love this band and no one can take that from me. No one can tell me otherwise, because it's like no one can tell me that, the first real show I ever went to was actually a Shibuti show before they were Coheed and Cambria. Yeah. Like in Nyack, New York or whatever. Like no one can take that from me. Like that's mine, dude.
Radical,
So that was like the first thing that like pushed me in this direction, and so I just started taking the poetry and like throwing it there, and like
Did you so you play guitar in Guilt and Bloom and do some vocals? Do you do were you a guitarist pre or post poetry writing?
Guitarist post poetry.
Right. So you're poetry came first. What time did you like pick up a guitar? I know this is sort of off topic, but I'm just kind of curious.
No, it's I was in senior year of high school, so I was 16.
Okay.
At the time.
That's senior year?
Not for me, it was. So I
feel like I was older.
I skipped a year of high school. I got I got my first year of high school was like weighted really heavily on all the stuff that you need to graduate. So I skipped an entire year of school.
That's kind of awesome. That's kind of awesome.
So,
why couldn't I do that?
It worked for me. So like, right. Well, and then I went to college and got like a 0.054 for semester.
Same though.
Dude,
it's not.
You get out of a 4.0 scale.
Oh, okay. You did great.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, it's funny because you guys have met my dad before,
right?
I would consider my dad a very intelligent person. He sacrificed a lot and worked a lot for what he's got. Pretty sure, I don't know if he either failed out or dropped out of his first time going to college.
Right.
And he'll talk about it. He was like, I was just not in the right headspace at the time being, and then I think he went back at 24. I could be very wrong, but I know he was like older.
Yeah.
Didn't go to residency until a little bit older than the typical, resident who would be like, whatever, like 24 starting residency or something like that.
Super physically demanding.
Yeah. That's well, it's funny because he had my sister too. Right. So him and my mom, married at 21, had my sister, and they, my mom put my dad basically through med school and through residency. So my dad would go to these things and then have to go work a job and then also have a baby at home. It was definitely a lot. I'm sure he has his own coping skills.
Absolutely.
But anyways, we'll kind of keep the topic going, shift over to Andrew.
What's your coping skill?
And,
mechanism? Whatever.
Something that
coping whatever you will.
What's your coping?
I don't know. I feel like I tend to like beat the dead horse with our podcast, but I've always been this huge advocate for like health and wellness, and I'm also and also music. I mean, I found the guitar at 12 through a cousin.
Yeah.
It's just something about it just kind of resonated me to want to learn more, and I stuck with it.
Yeah.
And so just that, and there's always been something about running for me. I can't explain it. I'm one of those psychopaths.
I love running too, man. Just
I don't know. It tends
my knees.
I think
my knee.
I think if John and I rolled back the tape, there is one point about 2 hours ago where I said, "I'm 33. I'm not running for anyone."
Unless they're trying to kill me.
Dude, I don't know. There's something about I don't necessarily get that runner's high, but I get so much stress alleviated from my body that like post run I have like this mental clarity where it's like there's this
interesting.
There's this calmness and everything.
So your running is more of a mental than a physical thing.
Definitely.
Because I know some people who are like, oh man, when I run like super far, like I feel good.
Running,
and I was like, I don't get that.
Running satisfies so much mentally that like I said, there's just
you found your thing.
Yeah, it's just this clarity, and I'm just happy. I'm just happy. When I run, I'm happy.
I think there's like a physiological explanation actually.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with, and I'm maybe way wrong here, but there's my brother-in-law is a big runner, and he does like the ultra marathons and like all the trail running and stuff. And it's like I think he's in like
he looks like he's a runner.
No, for sure, he's like 0% body fat, like super trim, like 100, like and like he started running actually as a coping skill because he and I started talking about like depression a few years ago, and he had a lot of questions and stuff.
Dude,
and
I can tell you, and like in my darkest moments, I tend to work out the hardest. Yeah. I don't know why I naturally gravitate towards stuff like that.
I go back and forth with that. Like there's sometimes when I'm like really depressed and I'm just like, I need to work out and make me feel good. And I'll be really motivated to, and I'll do it and I'll feel great. And then there's other times where I'm like, yeah, I should do it. And I'll do one thing and I'll be like, this is stupid. I'm never doing it again. It's pointless.
Right.
So it's very back and forth.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like in my circumstances that I've had, it's almost like the darkness, as you will, tends to give me almost like tunnel vision, and it's like this one track mind of like, this is what I do now, and it almost
like it helps, so you're like, I'm gonna do
exactly,
it. Or
it's almost like it's like it stems from like this anger almost, if you will, of just like, okay, this is something to do to pass the time.
Sounds like it strips you back to something primal.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
kind
like,
of,
I don't know. I'm angry. I'm sad, depressed, whatever it may be. So I'm just gonna lift something heavy now and do it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It does sound primal.
It reminds me of this guy I know. His name's Tom. No.
Let's bring Tom Towner up again on another podcast.
Oh, was he on here before?
No, he wasn't on. But
we just talked about him a couple episodes ago.
Mutual friends. Yeah.
There was speaking of podcasts, there was this like the very first podcast I did. There was just this ongoing joke that we always brought up our friend Rob.
Yeah.
Like even like just unneeded. We just brought him up, but that's reminded me of that.
I could totally segue into this now.
Yeah.
Since Tom and I are in Send Request.
Yeah.
There just so happens to be an honorary member of Send Request. Actually, there's technically two here, but I'm going three if you will. But I'm going to point out the fact that Caleb has been in the Send Request group chat for at least the last almost a year at this point.
It's been nearly a year, I'm pretty sure.
It's the most hilarious thing where we're in the middle of conversation, then like every 3 months or so, Caleb will just chime in with a one-liner and then leave forever again.
I do. Or I'll just hit an emoji somewhere and then just disappear for
weeks at a time.
Or
we'll reach out to Nick or something and be like, yo, Nick, where you at? And then Caleb will be like, yo, I'm over here. And then
I just one of these times I'm just going to send my location. In the chat.
And then he just goes away for months.
It's amazing.
It's the greatest thing ever.
That's incredible.
Really funny.
Yeah, I look forward to it actually. I do. It's the silly little things that.
No, exactly. To pull back on the topic here, in relation to music, I think the one thing that I tend to gravitate toward in the topic of coping, if you will, tends to, for me as a songwriter, always tends to be. I guess it depends on the application of the band that I'm performing in at the time.
Right.
If it's send request, it tends to always gravitate from lyrical content. Because obviously, like as the songwriter, I want it to relate the most for me. Right. So giving that out into the world, there's something very like cathartic about it. And you're just able to portray your full self in that moment. In So Much Hope, I think there's something about the energy of the music.
Oh yeah,
that I can just gravitate toward in my guitar playing.
To me, it feels very collective.
Yeah,
it feels like a bond.
Right.
Like that sounds weird.
Exactly,
but it does.
It's like a whole dang vibe is what it is.
It's a whole dang vibe.
Exactly, and
there's
something about that. I guess just in live performance in general, and I feel everyone feels it. Yeah. It's just there's this energy. That you're just putting out into the world, into the universe at that moment in time during that set, and that's the only thing that matters. And so I'm giving 1,000%, and by the end of it, I'm just like, wow, what happened?
Just like a deep breath.
At our last show that we played, I sliced my thumb open, literally like first song,
like 30 seconds,
like swinging for the headstock, right? Blood all over my guitar the entire show, and I was just like, well, it took me about 45 seconds to realize, and I was like, oh, these strings feel funny. I was like, these are new, these don't feel right. And I looked down and I'm like, oh cool, there's blood everywhere. And I was like, what do I do? And I was like, it's too late, I'm already like doing this. And I just, the whole set, I was just like, I'm fine.
There's just something about it. There's just the energy's there, and I guess there's like a little bit of an adrenaline rush to the point where if things like that tend to happen, that you're just like, all right. I'm gonna get through this.
I looked, I couldn't figure out where I was bleeding from for a minute, and I was like,
where was it? Your thumb, I think?
Yeah, I ended up, so it, like right here on the side of my thumb, like where you hold the pick. I like, I do those strikes at the top of the and I caught the string end with the thumb.
That's painful.
So
that's unenjoyable.
It sucks, but it was cool.
Dude, there's something about it. It is a coping mechanism, if you will.
Like it sounds cliche, but yes.
Well, exactly. It's like going back to the physiological thing for the runner's high. Like, right, that's like that's your brain is sending out dopamine because it's essentially breaking down part of your muscle to burn like the energy that you're spending.
100%.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
So no, I mean, I think there's a lot of carryover. I mean, especially when you're holding like a 10-pound guitar or 15 or whatever they are. I don't know, but
just being.
How much
physical.
does your Gallagher weigh?
It's very light.
Very light.
Lucky. I have mine. If you want to
compare. Like 7 pounds.
I was gonna say it's a lot lighter than yours.
It is.
I was gonna say. I found that, and
this is gorgeous. John's
seen yours.
Absolutely gorgeous.
If you want to look at it before you leave,
absolutely,
you're more than welcome to.
I was gonna say I just have like a stock one, but dude, I don't know why it's freakishly
yours
light.
is also very beautiful.
Freakishly light. No,
it makes me really want one.
We gotta get them.
Brought to you by Gallagher.
Thanks for sponsoring this podcast, Gallagher.
I've been looking. A while ago, like I don't remember if it was you or if it was John, but somebody added me to a group on Facebook, and now everybody like posts their builds and stuff. So
it was probably Gallagher guitars.
It's like, dude, it's like every other day. I'm just like, dang, that looks cool.
Really nice.
Dude, let's
coping
move
mechanism
on
by Ballagher's.
Yeah, that's my coping mechanism.
So mine is buying Ballagher's. No, honestly, and I think mine is gonna be different because I don't think it's music. Funny enough, no, I don't think music is my coping mechanism in the slightest, and the reason being is because every time that I feel either a certain way, that depressed about something or whatever, upset about something, I will never go to music. Because when I go to music, it's typically because I want, like, I'm happy and I'm loving it and I'm pumped and I'm stoked. So like if I don't feel that way, then I don't do it.
You're not
so like
trying to do it.
I have a respect for people who will write music based off of certain negative emotions in their life, because I don't get that. And it's really cool because I don't really understand that, because I don't know not that I don't understand it, but I just can't do it personally. Like I can't think of a negative emotion and be like, oh yeah, this makes me want to write music. Typically when I think of a negative emotion, I'm like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah,
including music.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, so I don't think my coping mechanism is music, even though that's basically my whole life.
Yeah.
Cause I want to split it basically.
Right.
I want my music just to be the happy, enjoyable. That's the thing you go
to when you're
exactly. Like just the thing that I love.
When you implement it in like, it is your work. It is your career.
Yeah.
You
I have
think
to
of your career in a negative way.
Yeah,
this thing makes me sad. I go do it all the time.
Yeah, no, I have to love
Music
it.
Makes me sad.
I think for me
for 9 hours
I
straight.
know, right? No, I think for me, my biggest coping mechanism is talking to people, specifically people who are like my dad, and my family just in general. My family is absolutely wonderful people, and when I get to talk to people like Andrew, and just really have a camaraderie and really sit down, build relationships with someone, that's why I honestly don't feel anxiety, depression, a lot of these negative emotions often. I would honestly say, like, if ever in the last, I don't know, five or maybe not 5 years.
Yeah.
But whatever, three or 4 years maybe at this point, because I think I figured that out and I surrounded myself with people that I care about, and I've surrounded and I talk to people constantly, and I guess I'm lucky enough where I'm an extrovert where I get energy off of people. I don't really feel drained by having conversations, which is why when you guys come to stay at the studio, I could stay up until 3 a.m. no problem talking. Well, typically Sarah and I, it's like 9:30 and I'm like, no, we can't go to bed now. It's 9:30. I got to stay up at least a little bit longer, but I totally could. Yeah. But like when Toothless went to the studio, I was up until 3 a.m., woke up at 6 a.m. and I was good. Yeah. Like I got 3 hours of sleep that whole time, but really just like being around that environment, being around people,
you just like uplift your spirits and make you think about it.
Yeah. It's like and I didn't even feel tired.
Yeah.
And like I went to go hang out with friends and I was like, I feel great. But yeah, honestly, I think I think a beautiful coping mechanism to kind of tie this all together with how we started is talking with people. And that's not always easy.
Well, and it even goes deeper than that too. Is like what I said, like in the beginning, is like the lens of it, right? Like some people have that lens positively, like you lean towards like the connection of people and stuff, and whereas like John and I are more inclined from a negative perspective off the bat, like you know what I mean? Like that's where we come from, right? So it's like our.
It's like a hard habit.
The way that we're dealing with that, right? Like we seek for like the catharsis in feeling that camaraderie between people.
It's tough. It's tough to break those habits, but I think recognizing it and realizing where you want to be versus where you are, and using those coping mechanisms to get there. To get to where you want to be and understanding where you are.
Yeah, like kind of like what you said about like surrounding yourself with people. Like like I've been trying to do that like a lot more. Like,
that's great.
Over the past few years, like, because like you said, like you recognize that that's something that helps. So I'm like, oh, if I'm starting to feel down or whatever, I need to be around people that are gonna like make me not that.
100%.
I get
that. My natural reaction is to pull the opposite. So
I mean, I get that way too. Sometimes.
My natural reaction to stress and to like all of those like negative like feelings and stuff was always to like read a book or escape or like.
I have ADHD. I can barely even like pay attention now, but like if I'm trying to read something, like I'm trying to read a comic book and I'm like, oh, Spider-Man. There's
a spider on the wall.
You know what I used to do is same thing. Like I also have ADHD. I used to do this thing where I would read a book the same time I was listening to a single album.
Oh my gosh!
So it was like I just listened to the album.
Me so bad.
Dude, I cannot read or think about Dune. I can't read or think about Dune or hear Coheed's first album without thinking about the other thing.
Yeah. Wow.
Like the association's just like so set in for me. Like it's crazy. But there's like a few different book series like that I was just like listening to particular albums because it was just like something I could do at the same time. Like my ADHD manifests a lot with like sounds overwhelm me. I hear everything and I don't process auditorily really well. Yeah. So it's like I hear everything, but it's at the same volume and my brain can't decide which thing is the important one to listen to. Like
Didn't you mention something about that? Like on the way here, you talked about it when you went home the other day.
Yeah.
Or something like I think that's the first I've heard of you like say that about like
it happens.
sound overstimulating.
It happens all the time. The other day I was sitting at work and we have like offices and stuff and it's all counseling. So there's like ambient noise machines that go on. They just white noise machines or whatever, and they go all the way down the hall, right? There's a girl, maybe 2 rooms down, maybe 25, 30 feet down a hallway from me. I could hear her wiping her chairs off the other day. I messaged her on Teams and I was like, hey, you're wiping those too loud. just to be funny. Poke fun or whatever. But she was like, how can you hear that? And I'm like, your door's cracked. And like I could hear it through like my door, like, open 4 inches, and hers was like, a few too. And it's like, but it's like I could hear it just as much as I can hear like the chair squeaking under me or like listening to you. Like,
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, anyways, we definitely probably lost video by this point just because the camera only. That's okay. The camera only goes for half an hour, so we'll just overlay. Whatever. We'll overlay a photo or something. Yeah.
Get a cartoon rendition of all of us here.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. I'll draw stick figures of you.
There you go.
But honestly, we can probably go all day.
Now. No.
Yeah,
exactly.
We could probably go all day, but
Yeah,
I think we're gonna wrap it up around that half an hour mark, like we usually do.
Yeah,
We're gonna keep
let's
talking
do it.
after we're done. We're gonna do
absolutely.
a whole other episode that's not recorded.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, dude, thank you so much for both of you guys being on here and doing this. And
Gil and Bloom, let's get those socials.
Yeah. What do you want to plug?
Like our own or
Like whatever you want to plug. Your personal.
Valgar Guitar.
Valgar Guitar. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Orange sponsor me, thanks.
Yeah, please. Gil and Bloom. I think that's our Instagram name. Is it anything special?
It's mostly just that.
I think that most of our socials is that.
Yeah, I think we just went straight with it, and it just was a unique handle that we ended up getting. So
right on.
Yeah.
Did you say that and like personals or no?
We're not like
whatever you want to do.
My Instagram handle is a poop joke. It's Johnstipated.
It is.
It is.
I'm so proud of that.
I'm just Caleb and Bloom on most things.
Word.
And my other Instagram is send request. There's one, So Much Hope Buried. Those are mine as well.
I run all of it. Amazing. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for dealing with us, and thank you for having
this was a blast.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime.
All right, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Same time. All right.
All right, cool. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.